welcome to this Teams chat between myself and the wonderful Adam Hale. Adam, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Assad. How you doing? I loving the beach.
It is, yeah, not quite as nice as your garden there. I
Yeah,
think
but everything looks big at a picture.
there you go, there you go. But yeah, I'm on some kind of beach. I'm not sure whether that's Miami or could just be Blackpool. Actually, I've no idea. For those of you that don't know Adam, I'm going to do a very quick intro. I say quick. There's so much to read out here that it probably won't be that quick. But you are a former CEO. You are a board director. You are an NED. You are a scale-up champion. You are a chairman. Have I missed anything out? An investor?
Cyclist.
A cyclist? Yeah, a very keen cyclist, I believe.
Hey.
And certainly a HR tech, people tech champion and titan of the industry. I think is a justifiable term for someone like yourself. Adam is former CEO of Fairsail and scaled that up from. Tell me if I've got these figures wrong, Adam, but about 13 people to around 200 in the space of 3-4 years.
That's right. Yeah.
And then sold to Sage People. Sold to Sage, and then Fairsail became Sage People, I should say. But obviously, phase 3 are in the HR tech space. I loved something that you said on your LinkedIn bio, and I'm going to read it out. So I'm going to look away from the screen. And it says, this is what you do. You're a chairman, etc., a speaker, author. It's about people and technology. And phase 3. This part isn't on your bio, but phase 3 are the people behind people technology. It's almost meant to be, Adam. It's almost meant to be. So tell me, how have you been during the virus and the lockdown today?
Well, it's been really interesting, actually, because as you say, I spent my whole life in the technology industry. And it's been interesting with the lockdown. I mean, having our daughters back from uni has been fantastic, but also just seeing everybody cope in a remote way, and seeing how I think Satya, the Microsoft CEO, said a good quote the other day. He said companies had done 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months. And I think that's really interesting. I think that and how organizations have transitioned to remote through necessity has actually been amazing. I have no idea how many video calls I've been on since lockdown, but I'm sure it's in 3 figures.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's a stat I thought of. Everyone downloaded Zoom, and there's another Zoom organization called Zoom that's on maybe it's on the American Stock Exchange or so on. And people were buying the wrong stock by mistake, and they had to take it off because it was just like 3,000% increase in value or whatever it was. And they were buying the wrong Zoom stock. But yeah, I think sometimes changes coming out of necessity are often the best one. But what kind of challenges have you faced yourself? Because I know you really like to keep yourself busy, and I'm sure you have been, like you say, via video calls and so on and so forth. But the organizations, the businesses that you are involved in, what challenges have they faced? And as a kind of result of that, what challenges have you faced as well during the lockdown?
Well, it's interesting because it's really made me think back to previous recessions that I've gone through. Obviously, this one's different because at the same time, we've got populations and businesses fighting for their lives at the same time. So we've never had that before. But if I look at the people side, I think there are 3 things that the businesses have done to kind of come out of recessions as more of market leaders than they go through before. Nobody really enjoys recessions, but they do for sure have opportunities. And those 3 things. The first one is get closer to your customers. This is a chance to talk to your customers at all levels. And actually, it can be easier to get hold of people, ironically. Time to talk to your customers more than you did before. And for several reasons. One, you need to understand what pain they're going through, how you can help them, but you can also share what's going on with other organizations. I'm on the Unit 4 board, and we've specifically done this. Out of 3,500 customers, we've spoken to nearly 3,000 in the last month, which is just a fantastic kind of engagement. Second thing is drive quality up, because quality, any kind of quality error is not forgiven in a recession. So everything just needs to be great. And that's the advice I give all of my boards and companies. So if it was checked once before, check it twice, because nothing is forgiven. So everything, messages, sales, customer delivery, product, everything just needs to be great. And the third thing, make sure that you're financially set up for the longer term. Make sure you can survive. And actually, the government, to give them credit, have really kind of come forward with that, with CBILS and the furlough scheme and the future fund, et cetera, et cetera. And my experience is that all companies think about that third thing. Kind of look at the cost cutting, make sure you're financially sustainable, but they don't necessarily think about the customers and the quality. And in my experience, if you want to come out of the recession better than you went into it, you've got to do all three things.
Yeah. No, I thank you for that. They're three really good points. And I think I've read quite a bit from various kind of CEOs over the last kind of 6-7 weeks in terms of utilizing their experience, stuff like that. And a lot of them are kind of mirroring exactly what you just said there, Adam, actually, in terms of to be ahead of the queue when we get back to some kind of normality. Yes, of course, you've got to be financially stable. You've got to still be around, that's of course. And I think a lot of people are thinking, let's stop this, let's restrict this, let's do, and that might be an essential for some businesses. But I think what you said in terms of staying in touch with your customers, and a lot of the times doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing.
Correct. Well, you've got, in my view, you've always got to be kind of forward looking. You've got to have your head up. You can't be an ostrich in this environment or kind of be a victim. You've got to kind of take those opportunities, because actually there are many opportunities. And I think what this recession and this pandemic is doing is it's busting some of the myths that were there. So for example, one of the myths has been you can't win new projects without meeting clients, and you can't hire senior people without meeting them. Actually, both of those myths have been entirely busted. I was talking to a chief exec of a executive search firm last week. He said they won 6 searches in April where they've never met any of the clients. He said they really wanted 1 and they got 6. And he said they completed many searches without them or the clients meeting candidates. It's interesting, but that means that organizations need to be much more careful about how they're hiring and who they're hiring. I've just become chairman of a business called Arctic Shores, and they do game-based assessments. And again, it's all about how do you get more insight and knowledge on the people that you're hiring when you know that you can't meet them. And again, that's one of these challenges for digital, because take the world of assessment. The world of assessment has been starved of innovation for honestly decades. And actually there's a chance now to really kind of leap ahead with solutions like Arctic Shores and kind of make those remote decisions that you couldn't do before. So one of my fundamental characteristics, Assad, as you know, is I'm fundamentally optimistic. And there are always things. I fundamentally believe you do.
Absolutely, it needs to be. I remember you saying, talking about the hiring of people kind of remotely now and not getting a chance to meet them. I remember you saying to me in one of our previous conversations that one of the things you really pride yourself on whilst you were at Fairsail and scaling up of that and therefore exit and sale was that you interviewed or you were in the interview with every single person that you recruited.
Exactly.
Every single person that you recruited, which I thought at the time was
mad.
Well, the first thing I thought, how did you do it? Just from a time perspective. But then, of course, once you sit down and you kind of drill down in that, you can see that it's so important when you want everything, that whole culture and that feeling of an organization to grow in the way that you want it to. It's absolutely key that you're involved as much as you can. Do you think that kind of thing happens in a lot of organizations from your experience?
I think it does in some, but it's funny because when I left, I threw away all the notes. They all got shredded. And I'm at 400 people in 4 years, and we hired about 180 of those people. So but 400 people, if you say an average of 45 minutes each, that's like 150 hours or something. It's perfectly doable in 4 years. But also part of the reason I did it was to really kind of reinforce that quality, also to demonstrate how important it was to every single person, that they were a key part of the team. And one of the wonderful things about Fairsail, just the quality of the team that we built. I'm actually working already with 10 of them who've come to work in different companies that I'm involved with, which is just fantastic. I love that. But also, honestly, it made my life so much easier because it just meant that I'd met everybody. And so even if it's, it's a video call, because I didn't meet them all face to face, but I would encourage anybody building a team to do that. So I found it super, super useful.
And continuing down the Fairsail route, I think one of the things I like about Fairsail is obviously when phase 3 started working initially with Fairsail, then and we continue to work with Sage People as partners today. It was a very kind of the culture fit and the match was seemed right. And since you've sold and kind of everyone's moved on and it's now Sage People, I think I mentioned this to you previously as well, Adam, that the story is one which resonates with me because it feels achievable. It feels realistic. It's not a San Francisco based unicorn that's worth billions and billions and it's global, this and the other. It's 15, 16 people to a couple of hundred, and say like
115 million.
115 million. So that might sound a bit daft. Someone's, for people listening to anything, 115 million achievable. I'm not necessarily talking about the price that's achievable. I'm talking about the scaling up. And it feels like it's something that me, running an organization of 35 people and plenty of others who have kind of 20 or 50 or 60, it's something to look towards and attain. What kind of tips or what would you say are the main things to do to achieve that kind of growth in a 3 to 4 year period?
So yeah, and I think it was a great journey, but also I completely agree. I think it is an achievable journey. And I do some lecturing in a couple of business schools, and one of the professors there actually said to me 3 years ago, said, you should really write this down. And so I made the fatal mistake of listening, and so did actually write it down because I had a bit of time after I left. And it's actually now, I wrote something called Lobster Tales. So if people look at my LinkedIn, you'll see it. It's about 55,000 words now. I dropped essay subjects when I was 15 as soon as I possibly could. So it's by far the longest thing I have ever written by a long way. And trust me, it's not going to win any prizes for writing, but it's intended to be the story of the business and particularly the story of the team. It's not my story. It's the company's story, kind of written from my perspective. And actually, I've really enjoyed doing that, and just really enjoy and kind of posting it in chunks on LinkedIn. And if you read it, if people read it, there are 5 things that I think are important for any scale up: purpose, focus, customer success, innovation, and team. And I think the challenge is that you need all 5 of those at the same time. You can't just perm 3 of 5. You need to do all 5 of those because you can't have focus without customer success, and you can't have innovation without the right team, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a question of having all of those in together. But the other thing I would say, and this was the last one that I've published, is success is also to do with the ecosystem, and it's to do with the partners around you. And honestly, it's not just come on this video, but Fairsail would not have got to where it got to without its partners. And we really tried to make that a win-win, because I don't think any company succeeds on its own. Yeah. But I think what organizations don't necessarily do is they don't really think clearly about what partnerships they want and how they can put those together for mutual success. Yeah. And I think we did that, and the alliances team and everybody else. We tried quite hard to try and do that.
Well, customer success, I think, is absolutely crucial. As are the other kind of the full 5 points. I think we share a passion for customer success. It's certainly something that we try to implement and develop down at in phase 3 as well. What does customer success look like to you? What's the end result? I mean, it's quite clear. It's, you know, a successful customer or whatever it may be. But in the realms of an implementation of a certain system, whether it, you know, whatever, finance, HR, CRM, doesn't really matter. Customer success is customer success. What's the end result look like and feel like to you, Adam?
Well, it's a really good question, but to me, the end result is that the customer themselves can articulate how the project and the solution has made their company better in ways that are important to them. And that to me has always involved, so any change will always involve an integrated combination of people, process, and technology. People, process, technology. Technology by itself won't change a bean, not a bean. Yeah. People by themselves need to do different things, process, and they need technology to help them. So it's that combination. And essentially, I have this debate with software companies where some say to me, oh, Adam, we're not going to have services. You know, it's cloud software, we're just going to have services. And I say to them, well, why would you want to be in the customer disappointment business? And they say, no, I didn't say that. I said, well, actually you did. Yeah. I said, well, is it possible that the customer can, you know, figure out how to do this, how to mend it with their business, how to configure what's important to them without your help or without your partner's help? Well, no, probably not. No. Well, then if you have no services, you are guaranteeing their disappointment. And that's a pretty rubbish business to be in. Yeah. And so that's why I think, you know, kind of services for software businesses and also implementation like partners like phase 3 are so critical, because if you don't change people and process and make sure the technology is lined up, it just won't work. Yeah. And there's no prizes for things. I mean, I'm just not interested in starting projects that are doomed to failure. Life is absolutely too short.
Well, we're coming to the end of it. I've loved it. It's already going over the time that I thought it would. But I've got one final question for you, Adam. If you could, what's your advice to CEOs, MD, whoever they are in a kind of organization right now? What should they be doing right now to ensure that, and you touched upon it at the start of the conversation as well, but to ensure that once lockdown and, you know, the full processing, we come to an end and we come out of this thing, that these guys and we are ahead of the queue, ready to just kind of rock and roll and get back to business. What's your kind of main few pieces of advice?
Well, I think it would be, you know, if you read probably the company report of any company, it says our most important asset is our people. Right? It always says that. So what I would say is I don't think the world's ever going to go back to how it was. I don't think people are just going to flock to offices in the way that they have been. So I think we're living with this permanently distributed and remote world. I think that's kind of okay. But what I think that means to organizations is you need to figure out how to engage and how to kind of have the right experience for people when you don't see them around the water cooler or nip out for a coffee anymore. Goodness, am I missing that? Anyway, and so what that means, you need to make people kind of home together and not home alone. You need to make your organization is working virtually and not virtually working, right? And these things are hard to do. And so you also need technology to help you. I'm involved with one company like OpenBlend, who do essentially that kind of remote one-to-one with organizations or e-days who kind of they figure out kind of where your company, where your people are, and fundamentally whether they're back to work and how to get them back to work. And so I'd say every organization needs to think about that, right? The previous world is like so over. So we're in this new world. So what are you going to do? How are you going to thrive? How are you going to manage? And that won't be doing what you did before.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Adam, thank you so much for taking the time out. You have a lovely garden. And
it's just a picture.
And we will catch up again soon, I hope.
Fantastic. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Assad. Bye.